Good evening, friends. Today is, you know what? I don't even know the day. I know it's Saturday. I think it's the 6th. Um, I know that tomorrow is range day, which is why I'm in my gun room and I'm getting some rifles cleaned up for tomorrow. So, um, I should probably clarify, I used to shoot on Saturdays. As you guys know, it's been a long time. I go on Saturdays. But my lovely wife has made a very smart decision and decided to go back to school. And so she works at her current job instead of being full time. She dropped to part time and she's working Friday, Saturdays. So my range days are moved to Sundays. Um, so instead of shooting every Saturday like I normally do, and I have in past videos, it's now changed to Sundays. Which is like, listen, that's totally fine, and it is what it is. I'm okay with it. The only one downside is the range that I shoot at. Sundays are trap and skeet days, and the range is much busier. But other than that, no difference. Other than I'm like, I used to look forward to Saturdays, and now I have an extra day to wait for range day. It's totally fine. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so long ago said I would be making a video highlighting the double set trigger on the Anschutz 1413, the 5039 double set. And so today's the day. I'm going to talk about that because I'm bringing this tomorrow to the range. I haven't had it out in a while because I shot it so much. I actually just kind of put it away after the match and haven't touched it since. So it's coming with me tomorrow because I kind of miss it. And so I'm going to be bringing it and just going to be shooting it for fun and that sort of thing because it has a German friend up top. And some of you may remember from following the two-part series I had on that rifle up there where I was building this We Show rifle of Worry for silhouette. Well, the silhouette thing is still, might happen, but I think I'm actually going to be shooting this in kind of like an NRL outlaw kind of match. Our match director for the precision field shoot that I have been enjoying monthly. The next one coming up at the end of March. We'll be doing a mini, I think, outlaw match before the field precision, and thinking about making a go of that. And so as a result of making that decision, I, of course, why would I want to shoot a modern repeater and that sort of thing? So I'm going to shoot a vintage German beauty, which is this guy. So some of you guys will remember it where I refinished the stock, added walnut grip cap and fore-end tip with alternating grain for fun. And then I think the last video I left off, I had stippled it and I wasn't really quite sure what I was going to do, but I've since finished it and that video is kind of in progress. I haven't shown part 3, so this is kind of like I'm skipping ahead of myself, but I've finished the stippling for the most part. And so I thought I would show you guys the difference between, a gun from 1966, a high-end gun with stippling, and then my home job up here. So my home job is just a pattern I followed myself, and I will add that stippling is the type of thing that when you first cut it, it changes over time as it wears in, and the oils from your hand get mixed in. And so what you're looking at is fresh cut, fresh stain, just the vision I had with it. So I won't go too in depth of this Vori, but I'll be shooting it tomorrow, just playing with some ammo that I have on hand, seeing what it likes, because for the life of me, I just don't remember. I never really tested too much ammo with it. Well, I tested some, but I didn't get too crazy with it. So I'm going to be testing a little bit of ammo with it. Just to see what it likes. But I'll quickly show you guys that this is kind of where we sit for the stippling that I decided on. And if you remember, I refinished the stock. So that's kind of, like the edges. I still have to finish them a little bit, but that's kind of where we sit. So stippling improves over time, and this is kind of like factory fresh, as I'll call it. Just kind of where you get your pattern to where you kind of like it. Gives you kind of idea what I was looking at. Basically, the walnut grip cap was just to give it that little bit because my hands are quite large, right? And so it just kind of gives it a better purchase. And then, like, I'm a sucker for stippling. I couldn't decide if I was going to do checkering or stippling, and I just kind of wanted to be a little bit different, so I went with that. But 10-shot mag, so it's kind of a no-brainer for what I'm planning to do. But finish turned out pretty good. It's a beauty for a piece of beach. It's the camera hard to pick it up, but maybe you can kind of see it there in the light. It's a beautiful piece of beach, I think, for what it is. So anyway, so that's going to be tomorrow. I'm going to shoot it for some groups and just kind of play around with it. I have the Vickers all cleaned up, ready to go, but I don't think I'm going to bring it tomorrow because I also wanted to bring that Benjamin pumper air gun, put a couple of shots through it at 10, 25 yards, kind of get a good idea about it. I cleaned the board today and oiled the linkage in preparation. My son was shooting in the yard today and said that it was even more accurate than before with the clean bore, so that's kind of what I wanted to do. So I don't think I'm going to take the Vickers. I can't take too many because it's just I'm not giving the proper attention to what I bring if I bring too many. So the Vori or the Wisho has to go, and then I haven't shot the Anschutz in a while, so I was thinking about bringing it. So anyway, this gun was bedded before poorly before my time. So I've cleaned up the bedding. I'm going to show you guys that real quick. A gun like this, which in my opinion, albeit older, is a Cadillac. And so it deserves a lot of attention and detail whenever you do anything on it, because you do not want to cut corners when it comes to modding it, because this gun is already top tier. And so even at its age, so whatever mods you do to it, you should do paying respect to its level of accuracy. And so the bedding wasn't up to my standards and up to the paying respect, like I mentioned, to this rifle. So I think I've paid it respect by finishing the bedding. So I'll show you guys my bedding job on it, and I'll show you the double set trigger because that was the original point of this video. And I'm going to leave Mr. Wisho over there because I think it is a fair little brother to this guy in all its glory. Stock and improved. You know, like I talked about it before and my reasons for improving it. Like it was a base model stock, no checkering, nothing. So I wanted to I bought it with the idea of wanting to tinker it and play with it and make it, you know, custom. So I think I've done kind of like what I set out to do with it. And because it is a phenomenal shooter, like Anschutz 64 at least level shooter. I'll show you guys tomorrow. It's a great shooting gun. So, and never had an issue, failure to extract or whatever. When I did get it, like if you reference my original video, it had some issues which I've since solved. But other than that, it's a great shooting gun. So back to this beauty. So I know in my previous videos, for those who have watched it, the Schultz & Larsen and the Anschutz 64 with the double set, I remove the trigger and I show you in depth. So I'm going to start off by saying I am not going to remove this trigger from the action because this trigger is so fine, like a Swiss watch or German watch, that I do not want to monkey with sear engagement on it because it is perfect. And so I will show you without of the stock because pictures of this one and videos are... Actually, I don't think there's any videos on YouTube of it, but pictures are quite unusual anyway. And so I will show you it out of the stock, but I am not going to take it out and demonstrate function because you have to set these with sear engagement, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to monkey with it the way it is right now. It is perfect. So anyway, and I'll also show you my bedding job. So I have loosened the action screws. There's one that goes right here and then right a little bit forward. And they're pretty much a standard action screw. This is the one for the trigger guard. It has a spacer on it. And this is the one for, it goes in kind of the rail underneath. And I will say that, like I talked about it in my Schultz & Larsen and Valmet video, the screws on these are not of the same quality of the Schultz & Larsen or Valmet. They're softer. And, you know, like these buggered are before my time, of course. But the reason I say that is because the screws on the Schultz & Larsen are not buggered, and they are many, many times older. So just the screws are softer. or you can argue that they were taken down much more. I'm not sure, but I think the steel is softer. But otherwise, it was a typical Anschutz affair with spacer. Now this one has a funky trigger guard, and it kind of like fits. You have to kind of rock it to get it to fit kind of sideways. So I'm not going to worry about too much about that. Let me move my beer here. For you guys can kind of Google pictures of that. Get these out of the way. Anyway, so the stock comes out. And before I get into the space shuttle here, I will show you my bedding. So you can see the bedding there, and the bedding block, recoil lug rather. So I chose to go, let's get that out of there. I chose to go here, just an edge kind of blended out. I didn't bother going back here because I don't see the point. Plus it gets kind of like, you know, out there. So my bedding is right there, and you can see just there, if the light gets it, it's almost skim bedded right there. There's a very, very thin amount, and then quite a beefy amount supporting the barrel. And you know, I normally don't do this sort of thing, but because of the weight of this barrel and the weight of the gun, I decided to do it there. So that's my revised bedding on my 54. Get a good shot of it there. And hopefully, like I chose to not climb all the way up, but hopefully you guys can get a sense of what I'm talking about there. The bedding before was very, like it was functional, but that's all it was. It didn't pay any justice to this rifle. And I don't know if I'd mentioned before, but when I bought this rifle, there was a crack in the fore end. And so the crack is actually here. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but I'll try to get the glare on it. But I've repaired the crack, which is not an easy feat in a lacquer finish without refinishing it. And it's there. It actually runs from about here to there. And so I think I've done a pretty good job of hiding it, but you can see it a little better in the, you can see the edge of it there. I haven't worked on it inside. I don't know how it happened, but it was quite a decent crack, and it was open when I got it. So one of the things that I repaired on it. Okay, so that's it there. So that's my bedding job and the progress so far with it. And the trigger guard I took out. It's alloy or steel, cast steel, I think. Much better than the plastic ones. I like this one. I like that it's kind of like a gray finish. It just sets it apart. This one's got some wear on it, of course, which you'd expect from a gun of this age, but I like this one. I like the gray kind of like bead blasted finish. All right. So here we are sitting at the space shuttle, and this is the Anschutz 5039 double set. And you can see in comparison to the Schultz and Larson or the 64, you can see how this, get some fuzz out of there. You can see how this trigger is, when I reference it being a space shuttle, you can see what I'm talking about. It's not easily explainable, or I don't know what the word would be, or I don't even know where you'd start. So you have two mounting points right here. I'm sorry, I used a cloth to wipe it down, I guess, last time. You have two mounting points here, and like they do mount in screw holes, but there's a little bit of adjustment that you have in it, which is why I'm hesitant to adjust too much. And so on this one, you set it like this, and you can see an absolutely beautiful, just single, I'll call it a torsion bar spring, but it isn't, because it doesn't twist. It's just a very simple, like almost circular leaf spring. And then this is the release trigger, or the non-set trigger by itself. So when you cock the action, sorry, my bolt knob's in the way, and you set the trigger, this is how easy it is. Set. Okay? And then you would pull the trigger. I have to be very careful because it'll dry fire, and I don't really feel like doing that. Okay? So by itself, if you don't set it, well, I guess I did dry fire. By itself, the trigger, I believe I have it set at 4.5 ounces. So it has a very shallow first stage. And believe me, I don't know if the camera's picking it up. I'm being very gentle. So the two stage rather. So this first stage is very short. And then this part is beautiful. So by itself, it's a beautiful trigger. And I should say, like, you know, like in theory, this is like if you don't cock the action like I just did, this trigger is designed for dry fire. So you can dry fire it because the action's not cocked here, right? So like this gives you a perspective on how light we're talking here. Okay. So this is the lightest trigger they've ever made. And I reference it quite often in the videos that it's it's something that you have to get used to, because if you just expect it to be like a regular trigger, it is most certainly not. And you know, I really enjoy the Schultz and Larson trigger. It's I think a very, very nice equal to this, but it really isn't. It's not the same level in any way. I think the biggest difference is this part, the setting, because this is literally like so light to set compared to the Schultz and Larson, which I've worked on extensively for like honestly hours to get it to the point where I can set it with my index finger and it's still stout, whereas this is just like a child could set it. And you can see the adjustments in the fore and after the trigger, and this one's had some obviously adjustments over the years from somebody else, but you can see the beautiful craftsmanship of it. Although I prefer the Schultz and Larson craftsmanship because it's somebody made it by hand, whereas this is just the epitome of perfection from the finest German rimfire manufacturer ever. And so like I appreciate the complexity and the sheer genius of this trigger. It is you know, nothing if it's not amazing, but it's definitely not simplistic and charming. It is, let's make the best we possibly can because we are the best, which is what this is. So I thought I'd show you that, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to take it apart and do an actual function for it because I have it set so well, and that matters in a rifle like this. So I just kind of wanted to give you a shot of the difference between this and the Schultz and Larson or the 64 or any double set, because no other double set is like this. And if you had like a Bruno double set or something like that, they are nothing like this. These are just amazing. And so I hope that kind of gives you guys an idea of what they look like. And like I'm even very careful not to put too much weight on it, which is why I got my egg crate foam still out so I can keep the weight off it, because it's a precision mechanism that's meant to fire in extremely light ounce levels. So anyway, that's kind of the video for the 54 double set, and give you guys an idea of how they work, and you know, absolutely dry fireable for practice. And I can't stress enough how that will fire basically when I just feel the tiniest amount of pressure on the pad of my finger. It's a pretty amazing trigger. I'm very happy I have this one because you know, it's kind of when you have a trigger like this, everything else is what pales in comparison to a trigger like this. So it's like at the level that this trigger set for you is quite remarkable. I won't say it ruins, like I think I've said it a couple of times in videos, that you get spoiled by a trigger like that. Spoiled is a good analogy. Ruin does not. Like, but you definitely, when you feel a trigger, you judge it based on this. And the unset at 4.5 ounces is world class anyway. And so, you know, you can shoot groups with 4.5 ounce trigger, but I find that like if I shoot a group with a 4.5 ounce trigger, it's not as good as if I use the set. And I've tried it. So it definitely matters. But it takes some practice. Like I mentioned, one of the best things I did was put the actual hand shelf on it, because you can relax your hand on it. And I keep meaning to build one for the Schultz and Larson, because Schultz and Larson is not as light, but it's definitely light, and I think it would benefit from that. Anyway, so I thought I'd show you guys that. I thought I'd show you my bedding progress so far. I normally wouldn't really think about betting a rifle like this, but somebody already had, and I wanted to improve it and kind of get it to the level of where a 54 of this quality should be, where the bedding reflects the quality of the rifle and my repair and just little upgrades that I do here and there. Thought I'd share that with you guys. I want to thank you for watching and following along with the Wii Show build, and I'll check in with you guys tomorrow at the range. Thanks a lot.